We are back at Williams HQ. We're with something bang up to date now. This very car driven by British legend George Russell with this very steering wheel that Sheryl's grown quite attached to.
No, it's mine.
Apparently not. Let's dive into the latest edition of the Formula Student online podcast.
We are here in the Williams Esports lounge, and I am here with a very, very special guest, Mr. Stephen English. We've also got Monty and Giles as well.
Thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Oh, you know.
So we're here to talk about the esports side of things. So tell us a bit about the Formula Student Racing League.
I think Monty's the best person to answer this one.
Okay, fair enough. So quick context for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm the event captain for the FS Sim Racing series. Essentially, it's an esports series exclusive for Formula Student competitors. The series runs from October to July every season. It's one race per month. The teams basically get put into different car and track combinations. 2 races in the evening, whichever team does the best gets the most points for the evening, and then it all runs up until the grand finals, which are run in conjunction with the main Formula Students competition itself in July. I'll come back onto that in a second because it's a very, very special event. But the other part of the competition as well, which is, I guess you could say, the unique selling point of it, is in between these races, the students are challenged with, we call it the engineering contest. So it's a series of data analysis competitions where we will give the students like a one-page spread of this is what the data is saying. Can you try and interpret it for us, please? And tell us what's actually going on. It's all about vehicle behavior. They've got a couple of weeks to go and do a report, do some testing, try and work out what the data is telling them, and then submit it for judging. It's not simply about who gets the fastest time will win. These reports get judged by professional engineers. They're looking for their rationale, their justification, communication skills, and also what kind of engineering skills they're applying as they're trying to problem solve. So I guess you could say it's about using those old school engineering skills, the maths and the science, and problem solving. Okay, the end result may be a little bit different to what you get in real life, but it's transferable skills. And this is essentially what the students will be doing when they get into industry once they've graduated as well. So that's the purpose of the challenge. Back to the finals. This is very, very special because where we are just now, we come to the Williams Esports Lounge where all the students get together for a big final race. And hopefully we get to declare the champion. And well, for the last couple of seasons, it has been some titanic title deciders.
Yeah, we've had some really great racing here at Williams Esports. It's always been a pleasure to commentate on it. For context, I'm the commentator for Formula Student, and Monty approached me after I jumped into the commentary box because Sam Collins had been snapped up by F1 TV, does an amazing job on the Tech Talks. Hi, Sam, if you're watching. Thanks for leaving a gap open. I really appreciate it. A year after I got in the commentary box of Formula Student, Monty approached me at Learn to Win and said, how do you fancy commentating on the sim racing series? And we haven't really looked back, have we?
No, not at all. The series began as a kind of a one-off because of COVID. People weren't allowed to come to Silverstone, so they still wanted to do the Formula Student part of it. So it was all kind of put in an online one-off format. But the students really liked it. The teams really liked it. So we went, okay, let's try and turn this into an actual annual contest. And so that's where it's kind of begun. So that was 5 years ago already, the pandemic. That's half a decade ago. That's scary, right? But yeah, so it started from that. The first season we had 20 teams take part. Second season, 32. Last season we had 50, and we're up to 56 universities taking part this season. So it's really grown at a fast rate of knots. And in that time, it's just gone from strength to strength. And one of the biggest things which we absolutely are proud about is how our title partner with this, Williams Esports, Stephen, thank you so much for all of your support over the last few seasons, because what we've achieved, we couldn't have done this without the support of you and the team.
Yeah, welcome. And from our perspective, we talk a lot about where Williams is involved in career development and engineering graduates and helping people with that pathway into their kind of dream career in Formula One or elsewhere in motorsport. A lot of the work that we've done in sim racing helped us to identify this potential kind of extracurricular career path by using sims and sim racing to add to that knowledge and experience base that engineers have. And if you can start that while you're still a student, you're going to give yourself a head start for the years going forward. So, we found one of our early engineers. We used kind of gamers as engineers. They were just people who knew the games best. And I think we reached the ceiling of what you can achieve there quite early. And one of our first proper engineers was a university graduate who had participated in Formula Student, Michael. You guys know him and speak to him quite a lot. So he helped to show that pathway that we were really opening at the time, but that the knowledge that he'd got working in the sim and the way that he'd been able to impress other engineers that we had that were real life motorsport engineers that were really just volunteering a bit of their spare time to work with us. They were so impressed with his understanding and his ability. That's what opened the door for him to get his first trackside, real world engineering job. And we thought if that works for one person, maybe that can be an opportunity that could be open to everybody. We just need a route to find more students, to give them a competitive environment to showcase their skills, their capability, and to develop a little bit of a pathway for them to give them that opportunity to step up. So hence, when the conversation started about the sim series at Formula Student, it just brought those two worlds together perfectly.
So Stephen, I'd love to hear about the Williams Engineering Academy.
Yeah, it's a program that we've actually had for a long time at Williams. We relaunched it in COVID. As we were saying, a lot of things kind of had to find a different way to exist during those times. We were looking for ways that it could be more innovative and help to develop engineers of the future and help students to pursue their career path and give people an opportunity to kind of stand out from the pack and be successful. So the program now at Williams, we work with Komatsu, which is one of our partners. They're a business that employs lots and lots of engineers and technicians around the world. So it makes sense to their business area, and they invest a lot to help us support that student journey. So now there are students on that academy from all different parts of education. It goes as young as high school, through sixth form, through university, and even through postgrad and career development. And the students on that academy get different types of support from Williams, depending on where they are in their journey and their education. So there's mentoring and there's projects, there's opportunities to come on site at Williams and get some experiences at an F1 team. Coming out of COVID, when we were making sims and sim racing a more central part of our activity, we learned through Michael's experience with what he'd done in the team, the opportunity to use these sims to add to the value of that program. So the students now have an opportunity to come and work with our sim racing team. If they're younger and say less experienced engineers and know less about the games, they'll start on kind of more, not console, but kind of the EA F1 game, that end of the scale. The more knowledgeable and more experienced they are, you can work right up to your kind of iRacing, where you're getting really deep into the data and all of the different physics that the game allows. So through those experiences, they get to kind of accelerate their experience. Like, we have hundreds of races a year. So the opportunity to work with a driver one-to-one, going through setup developments or getting their feedback or building a race strategy, this experience comes thick and fast. So if they do that for just a few months with us, they may have been able to kind of replicate a few years of trackside experience, or certainly might take them that long to accumulate that level of experience. So that's the program, and we're now, making that program kind of more prominent as it gets known to more students. We think it's going to be obviously something that more students are going to want to be a part of, and there's going to be quite a high level of competition to get onto that program, which raises the opportunity for students to use simulators and sim racing as a way to build their experience and to stand out and to boost their kind of opportunity of being selected on the program in future.
That's really, really cool. So what about this part's for me a little bit. What simulator game is best to become a pro sim racer, do you think? That's more for me.
It's a good question. I suppose it depends whether you want to earn money, you want to win trophies, you want a high profile. There are different games have different kind of benefits and aspects to them. You know, I mentioned there the kind of broad spectrum of games. The EA F1 game is not the most advanced from an engineering perspective. And so, as you might expect, it's not as advanced from a kind of technical level as a driver. But the drivers who are the best in the world are ridiculously good at it. And it's a really high profile championship. They get paid a lot of money. The prize money is high. The audience is huge. So F1 esports, some people see as the pinnacle in terms of the profile of a pro sim racer. But others would maybe favour that kind of realism end of the scale and would want to see a crossover to real life racing. And we see a lot of real world drivers using the sim as a way to enhance their training. And a lot of pro sim racers at that end of the scale would have an aspiration to go and be a real world racing driver. And so something like iRacing, ACC, even Rensport now is sort of more kind of common on the scene thanks to the Esports World Cup. They're all areas where there's an opportunity to be a pro, to make a living. I wouldn't say one's easier than the other to get into. You know, they're all ridiculously competitive. It's quite rare you see a driver that is at the elite level across all of those areas. You get, you know, much like real racing, you get the occasional freak of a driver that just happens to be the best in the world at any car they get in. Sometimes you get a sim racer that does that, but for the most part, drivers tend to be dedicated to one simulator or one game. You know, it takes so many hours of dedication to get to the top that there's maybe not enough hours in the day for most people to do it in all sims. So, yeah, I can't tell you which one to pick, but I think most drivers, you find the game that suits you the best because that's just going to give you more chance to be successful rather than trying to fight on a game that isn't natural to you.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So I'm going to stick with the EA F1 then, because that's the one I'm good at. So I'm going to stick to that one.
Clearly not Mario Kart, so I'm buggered.
Oh, I'm terrible at Mario Kart. Like, it's quite funny because my friends will come around, we'll have like a little game sesh and they'll be like, oh, Sheryl's going to win this one because she does sim racing. I'm like, all right. Yeah, awful. Absolutely awful.
I miss it on the DS. It's got harder since then. It was hard on the Wii. It's got even harder on the Wii U. I can't do it anymore.
Just give me a sim rig and F1. It's fine. I'm good. But thank you for that insight. So do you foresee the sim racing event becoming part of more of the core Formula Student event in the future?
Yes, well, definitely. So for context, this the whole sim racing contest was Dan Jones's, I guess you could say, baby. So we're here to enable it for him. But this was always this kind of end goal, was to try and tie it back into the main contest. For sure, you could definitely tie it into the concept class, for example. The data which you're using there is relevant to what students are using with MATLAB and with other hardware and loop simulations to justify their designs, and to a lesser extent the costs involved within this as well. So if there was an opportunity to tie it back into there, I think that would be the ultimate goal. We currently use a platform which we use Assetto Corsa. Now, it's such an open simulator. There's a huge community who drives it. There's a lot of modded content out there. There's even a Formula Student car, which is one of the things on the simulator itself. So I would love to see it get to a point where students can actually design their own cars on the simulator, and we're essentially recreating the contest that way, because it's tying back into the engineering element of it and not just about who's going to be fastest on the track.
We used the Assetto Corsa mod at Cardiff Racing a few years ago to simulate video footage of our final car, because it was in the build stage at the time. We didn't have it, so we took the mod in Assetto Corsa, put it into the Cardiff Racing colours, and then used that video in the business presentation to demonstrate the car, even though it didn't exist. So it's certainly, there's a baseline there which could be built upon to integrate it and actually have those Formula Student cars in Assetto Corsa. And you could even, to an extent, and this is going really out, that you could end up doing wheel-to-wheel racing, because there's no need for a racing license because it is virtual, which would be exciting. Although then again, maybe not the entire point as Monty's been saying, but you can certainly get that data analysis and that focus on the soft skills that you're developing there and actually transition that into the real Formula Student itself.
Absolutely. It ties it back into what's relevant for industry needs as well, particularly motorsport and in the automotive industry. There's a lot less physical testing happening nowadays. I think some one way or another got hit through COVID, and what was normal beforehand has changed. It's more computer-based now, it's more simulation-based. I'd even argue that this could probably tie into the FSAI series as well, because you need to have those automated driving skills as well. And again, it comes back to analysing the data and understanding what the numbers are saying back to you. I guess from Williams's point of view, if you've got this whole scheme in place for secondary school kids, for college students as well, this is like a natural continuation for them. Because I think there's a lot of schemes out there at the moment. That's it, you're 18 years old. Okay, good luck. Whereas we give them an opportunity to continue this and apply those skills in many other ways, right?
Yeah, so it's about developing the pathways. We would love to be kind of as ingrained in the Formula Student activity as possible, because we want to be able to incentivize every student that participates in Formula Student to have an advantage by coming and engaging with Williams. So if that sim challenge or sim series can offer more and be more a core part of the series, then it's going to bring more engagement, and more students are going to want to be involved in it because they see the benefits.
Can you give the students watching any tips or tricks on how to win at Formula Student sim racing?
Be polite to the admin team, because they give their time as volunteers. They are facilitating what is a clear career progression system to get into motorsport, the automotive industry, Formula One, through the development of soft skills and data analysis that hasn't always been a part of Formula Student. This is a new skill set that is being offered through volunteers who give up their own time. And it's not just on the weekends that we race. I mean, I'm lucky enough that I will just rock up, there's a microphone in front of me, I talk for 2.5 hours, and then I go home. But the admin team that are running this, they are running the servers, they're dealing with inquiries, complaints, issues every month for 6-7 months of the year. Treat them with respect, be kind, and that will help you. Because at the end of the day, it's not just a case of your engineering skills, but it's also about your person skills, your ability to socialise, interact, build rapport with people, because all of this is a sport, and sports thrive on teamwork. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, I'll add on to that one, guys. If you enable us, we can enable you twice back. We do this in our spare time. It's been fantastic to watch it grow and to develop. It's not just British universities taking part now. We've got a couple of Spanish teams who are really competitive. There's even a few teams in Hong Kong as well that are taking part. So fair play to them, because it's like 3 in the morning their time when they're racing against everyone else. But it's an opportunity to, I would say, get involved in motorsport through an alternative channel. One of the biggest barriers I think a lot of people find in motorsport is how do you get in? How do you get your foot through the door? It's always who you know, not necessarily what you know, which gets you in. So to give students an opportunity to show their worth from the comfort of their bedroom and to be able to profile themselves that way, that ticks all the boxes from an inclusion point of view, as far as I'm concerned, and it gets more people who know their stuff and should belong within the industry an opportunity to get involved.
I think what's been nice about the sim racing revolution that occurred after the pandemic, and bear in mind that Williams had set that up even before the pandemic and esports had started, and you guys were at the cutting edge of that. I think what is nice about it is it's almost the great leveler in a way, especially with motorsport, because previously motorsport has been rather difficult to get into from a class point of view. And in this case with sim racing, you can access a great deal through a computer, which more often than not a desktop computer will be able to run at least an early stage video game. And in doing so, that's opened the door to a number of people that otherwise might have had that door closed in their face. And I think that that's one thing I'm really passionate about, with the opportunity that it provides to a far greater range of people.
Yeah, the Sims have democratized the sport in a way that has never been possible before. We're sitting in our Williams facility now. We have school groups in here every day. And that's tens of thousands of students a year who may have found it really difficult to find a way to engage with Formula One or motorsport at any level, but they come in here, they have an experience, they sit on the sims, they feel it, and it's just a way that you couldn't offer people that passion without it. I can't offer the students very much in terms of engineering knowledge, and I've never participated in Formula Student, so I'm no expert in what it takes to win. But I would say the sort of same advice that we give to students and anyone really looking to succeed. The first piece is you get out what you put in. I think for every 10 students that we get that offers to be a volunteer or has the opportunity to come and work with our sim racing team to learn more about engineering, to get more experience with our drivers and learn from the senior engineers that we've got, for every 10 of them, there's always 1 or 2 that stand out. They go the extra mile, they're really dedicated, they learn, they take the time to learn the games inside out, to learn the data inside out. Whatever the first challenge they're given is, they don't stop there. They will go away and say, oh, I also came back and looked at this, and what if we tried that, and what if we did that differently? It's obviously difficult to stand out because it's a fiercely competitive industry and a lot of people want to succeed in it. But anytime I see a group of 10 people, it's not that hard to see the 1 or 2 that stand out. And it's usually you get out what you put in. If you want it more and you invest it more in it yourself, you put yourself in the best place to succeed.
To be fair, that is good life advice for literally anything. You get out what you put in. So not just sim racing or engineering or anything like that. Everything.
Even dentistry.
We're not bringing up dentistry on the podcast.
Even building Lego.
Yes.
There we go.
So yeah. Thank you, all 3 of you, for your time. It's been amazing talking to all of you, especially Stephen. You too. But
Yeah,
I'm joking. I'm
Talk
joking.
to us enough.
I talk to them a lot, so it's nice to speak to someone new.
Thank you.
Welcome to this part of the podcast. We've got some very special guests who work here at Williams, and they're going to give you a little bit of insight into their experience as they're all former student alumni. So we'll ask them to introduce themselves, tell them a little bit about what they do here at Williams, and also which university and what they did in their role when they were taking part in former student. Harry, do you want to start first?
I'm Harry. I'm a composite designer here at Atlassian Williams Racing. I'm based in the chassis team, and I came from Brunel University. I did an MEng at Brunel.
Georgie?
I'm Georgie. I'm currently at Loughborough University, and I'm on my industrial placement here in the materials team. So when I'm at Loughborough, I'm on the former students team in the composites department.
Liam?
Hello, I'm Liam. I work as a mechanical design engineer at Atlassian Williams Racing in the power unit integration group. I went to University of Birmingham, did former student for all of my years there. Studied for mechanical engineering with industrial placement.
Fantastic. So, for the purpose of this next segment that we're doing, I want you to imagine you're a month to 6 weeks out from the event, so around sort of June time, beginning of June. So I want you to try and think back to the feelings that you had when you had your experience, and talk to me a little bit about what the people who are watching this should be doing to get prepared for the event that's coming up. Maybe some of the pitfalls they should look for, and some of your real life experiences, so that they can be successful by learning from your experience. So if you can give me a little bit of insight of what you were feeling, and we'll go around and we'll try and figure out what the most optimum solution is for the students that are taking part this year.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but we were sort of panicking maybe a little bit. So in my head, as the team principal, it was, what can we focus on and maximise our time to maximise the amount of points we can get at competition? So if we had to sacrifice a static event to ensure that the car was running, and that's where the majority of the points are at comp, we would absolutely prioritise getting that going. But for us, that was our passion. We wanted to see the car run. We put so much effort into that car. We had to see it turn around.
So it was quite an interesting year for you, because you were a first year EV transitioning from IC. So what sort of differences did you experience in actually that, taking part in that?
It was a totally fundamental change of concept. So every single part, more or less, on the car had to change. Chassis, suspension, the wheels, even to the detail of how many points on the hubs we're going to pick up on the wheel. Lots of very, very fundamental parts of the car had to change.
And how did it make you feel?
Overwhelmed, maybe. Quite a lot of work had to go in at the start of the year, and it was regular 12-hour days, probably minimum, in the office, just designing stuff. But we had quite a good team around us, and we were having quite good fun, just bashing these designs out and getting quotes from suppliers and running around the country. I did a lot of time in my little Mazda just running around the country, just chatting to suppliers and spending university money.
And was this a similar experience for you, Liam?
Very similar. So yeah, we went through a similar thing in my final year. We were first year EV, at least first year doing it properly, I suppose. Yeah, we again started from scratch, completely from scratch. It's just such a different approach to anything we designed before.
Okay, and have you been through the event yet? Because I know you're on a work placement. So have you done a year yet where you've had that climb up to the event?
Yes, I was at Silverstone last year with Loughborough. I think for us, in our last month, we suddenly realised how much we had left to do. So we switched to EV in 2019, so quite a while before I started uni. And we spent the past couple of years like troubleshooting and trying to get everything to work. And I think last year was going to be our big year to try and get everything going. And then like a month ago, we were like, oh, we've got so much more that we still need to do to get our car to run at comp. So
I think it always catches you out just how soon it is. And even myself here now, planning from a admin point of view for running the event, you know, I think I saw it somewhere, it's 5 months to go, and you go, oh my gosh, I've got so much to do. And this is not building the car, this is just getting ready for actually, you know, running all the statics and stuff like that goes with it. And I think the question that I've really got for you is, okay, so you've been through it now, and a couple of you have been through it more than once in terms of iterative years. What would you change? What would your advice be to anybody that's listened to this? And I know we always say at Learn to Win, get things done early and early and early, and every single year you get to the event and things have just crept up on you and it's different. But what would the hard bit of advice be to people who are watching this that need to hear how can they be successful at the event?
For me, it was day naught, make a plan.
Yeah.
And it has to be a detailed plan, and it has to have deliverables, critical paths. Who's in a team? How many man hours have you got per week? Have you got staff there who's going to support you in the workshop, in the office, holidays, everything? You need to think about everything. You're running a small business.
Yeah.
And it has to be efficient. And you've got so much to do, especially as a small team. Like all of our teams here, they're all very, very small teams. So you do have to consider everything. But I'd also say, like, the purpose of Formula Student is to get a job at the end of it.
Yeah.
And it has to be your dream job. So for me, I took the marketing of the team very seriously in terms of like Instagram and LinkedIn. Every success and failure, just talk about it and maximize like your impact on hiring managers, because it gets you noticed as a team. And so all of us within our little group got jobs that were important to us. So I'd focus on that as well.
Cool. What about you guys?
I was very much echo what Harry said in terms of prioritising when you're a month away. You know, yes, you should definitely stick to it, make a good plan at the start of the year and stick to it as closely as possible. Doesn't always happen for one reason or another. Making sure that you're prioritising what's going to maximise your points. So if it means getting rid of some aero, focusing on making the car go forward, then yeah, sometimes those sort of sacrifices, as much as you don't want to make them, have to be made.
So I think you've touched on it there, and we'll flip to you now, Georgie, with this. So you've had your first year, and so what mistakes did you actually make, and how would you change that for when you go back after your work placement and start going again with Formula Student?
But I made a lot of mistakes when I was Formula Student last year. I think I was very inexperienced when I went into my second year with just how Formula Student worked, how the team worked, how designing something worked. I think I went in second year and I was in the composites team and I was suddenly like designing bits for the rear of the car, and I'd never really touched CAD outside of maybe a couple lectures I had in first year. But I think my biggest mistake was actually not asking the more experienced people in my team for help. I think here at Williams, we're very big on teamwork and making sure that everyone works together to reach a common goal. And I think that really needs to reflect in your Formula Student team as well, because I would have finished my part so much quicker if I'd asked one of the senior team members for help and asked them how to do it, instead of just trying to make by on my own and hope that it worked in the end.
I think that's, and I can only imagine, because I haven't worked in Formula One, but I can only imagine that the knowledge transfer that you have to pass across is critical for your future success. And I think that's something that across the board, Formula Student teams don't do very well. they're sowing the design, and that year that they get to the end of the full-fledged project, and it's maybe a couple of days of putting together CAD files or whatever and pass over, and they never really do a proper handover, which means that often the teams are starting that iterative process again. And I'm just wondering, was that your experience? How did you, just to flick back to the start of your projects, did you have that knowledge base that you could rely on, and was that something that you could draw down on?
Yeah. If I'm honest with you, John, we didn't know who was going to pick up the project the following year. So it's difficult to give a handover pack, but I understand what you're saying in terms of making like a Word document or a Excel sheet, or, just knowing from whoever's picking it up next year how much money that the previous team had, how much time they put into it, know what the plan looked like. They can develop a plan based on the feedback on the previous plan. Having people who've done the competition before is so important, because they know scrutineering is the most important thing. Otherwise, you just sit in the garage and you just sort of go, what happens now?
Yeah.
Which we, for the first maybe 3 hours, I know that's nothing, but we should have been in that queue. We should have been, motoring on.
I think there's a lot of people that don't realise, and I've seen this over my time, especially when I was a student doing it, but over my time, that you need to manage the event as well. So day one you arrive, you've got a plan. How do we unpack? Right, team meet, 8 o'clock every morning. What's the objectives for the day? What are our hard points for the day? Where do we need to be? When are we setting up the car? When are we entering the queues? All these little things that make a difference, because your time just races away. You think that, you've got 4 or 5 days, including setup at the event, but it just draws away. And also, you want to enjoy it as well. You also want to, exactly, we're going to talk about what it feels like in a minute, but you also want to be engaging with the sponsors. These are the people that will be enabling your future careers, so I think it's really important. So just to move down to you guys, and then we'll come back to you, Harry, as well. At the end of the event, I think there's a lot spoken about how we prepare for it and how we get ready and make sure that, that we give the best version of ourselves. But how did you feel once the event was over?
I was so tired. I was completely wiped out afterwards. I think when you're preparing for the event, you look at the timings of the day and you're like, oh yeah, that's fine. It's start at 8 a.m, finish at 10, 11 p.m, whenever they kick you out of the pit lane, especially when you've got stuff that's not really going your way. And then you get to the Monday after competition, and the fact that you've just done all of those hours hits you. I think for me, it was a bit of a different experience as well, because I was obviously about to start placement here. So I was really excited. I was so excited to come here and start and basically do it all again, but on a much larger scale. But yeah, I think for us as well, we had quite a lot of disappointment last year. And I feel that really hit on maybe the Tuesday or Wednesday after. And you spend all year prepping to run the car and then it doesn't run. And that's really hard to deal with as well. So for me, it was very mixed. On one hand, I was so excited to get going with the next thing and see how the team are progressing this year. Because obviously this year we're really building on what happened last year. So we should be able to be in a much better place. So I'm excited. I was excited to see that development carry on. But at the same time, I think I was so tired and so also gutted that we didn't run and things, and just trying to manage both sides of that was quite interesting.
Was that your experience too, Liv?
Yeah, I felt pretty lost.
Yeah.
It's quite strange. You sort of spend so many months doing so many hours and kind of all working towards one goal, and then you wake up on the Monday and you're finished and you're like, what do I do now?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's strange. I'm also quite fortunate in the kind of, I guess, 2 years I was most involved at the sort of senior level in the team. I would then go on to start my placement and then start my grad job. So I did have something to look forward to. I felt that I hadn't achieved what I wanted to achieve either. So it was also I wasn't satisfied, essentially, and I kind of walked away from Formula Student being proud of what we'd achieved and what we'd done, but at the same time also not really being satisfied with it. And
I think that's really difficult because you've got to manage expectations, and when you go into this, if there's 100 teams at Formula Student, 99% of people or teams are going to be disappointed because there's only one overall winner. But I think you have to frame your your goals realistically and set those. And, you know, there are times when teams will get lucky and be in the top there, but if you frame your goals correctly, you can still be successful. Now, the reality of the fact is you guys are completely successful because you're sat here at Williams. You know, you're at the top echelon, you know, you've leveraged your former student tie. But I know full well that we all look back at our experiences in former student and we go, oh, I just wish I'd done that. Was that your experience as well, Harry?
Yes and no. I knew I did a placement here at Williams, and I knew going back that I was going to lead the team, and it was my every intention we were going to run, we were going to have a successful year. And I went with that mindset from day naught. And so me and my friend Tim poured every hour of every day into it, and we were so burnt out by the end of it. We were in the cost final, and we didn't win it because we were so tired.
Yeah, and I remember that.
Well, so it's brutal, totally brutal. And at the end of it, we didn't get the car running because there was something to do with our accumulator legality-wise that was fine. The car was okay. The car had actually got through screw. It was just the accumulator and the charger.
But I also know in a very short span of time, you got that car running afterwards.
Well, so we left competition pretty dissatisfied, and within the 2 weeks after competition, we were still in the workshop, and we got the car running. I got in touch with Cranfield and said, "Can we use your test facility?" And they were like, "Yeah, come by." So a small core team of guys came down to Cranfield, and we got the car running, and I had an absolute blast in the car. It was awesome.
And am I right in saying that was about 2 weeks after the event?
That's right, yeah, 2 weeks after.
I think this is the bit where I try to impress on teams is those 2 weeks make such a difference. You know?
Just for my own, you look at the video of the car running now, it's like, God, that's I put so much effort into that. Very proud of that whole year. Yeah, it was awesome. But, you know, the following few weeks where I was on holiday before I came back as a graduate, I was sick, I was properly ill. The stress and the going from 100% to 0%, yeah, it was a whiplash. It was brutal.
And I think this is I get it, and I see this time and time again, and this is one of the reasons why I think we have to preach the mental health side of this as well, because we're putting you in a very stressful situation, building these amazing vehicles that are, to a certain degree, you know, very technologically advanced as well, and we have to look after each other. So just a quick word on how did you manage that within your teams, especially in this last month leading up to the event? How did you support each other? Dry wit and humour, probably. Insult.
Like that. Especially at competition, because you're all sharing a tent. I mean, one bloke left the door open in the pouring rain, so we were sleeping in a puddle.
Exactly what you want when you're tired.
Yeah, it was good. It's good fun. And we had good fun with the launch as well. We had a fantastic launch event. And we had a lot of parents and sponsors and friends and colleagues there. So that was good fun. Just the whole year of just making a race car, and we had the workshop at Brunel was fantastic. Yeah.
And the team. And this is it as well. It's not just the students, the support from the academics and the technicians are really, really valuable.
Totally. Yeah, 100%.
What about you guys? You got anything?
I think just have to remember it's fun. Like, I think
I will
be enjoying this. Yeah, I think it gets to Sunday and you watch the people running and you're like, this is cool. Like, as a motorsport fan as well as someone who works in it, like seeing what everyone's put together and seeing everyone run their cars is like fundamentally quite cool. But I think that throughout the year you just have to remember that you're doing it because you enjoy it. And sometimes you've been in for a student for like 13 hours and like your part's not going the way you want, or it's not been manufactured properly, or just your car just won't start. And it's really hard. And you're like, oh, I've put so much time into this, and I've done really badly in my exams because I've been doing for a student, and now it's just not going. And it is hard, but yeah, just remembering you're enjoying it and remembering that everyone there with you wants to succeed as well.
Yeah.
There's no one there who's like, oh, I actually don't care if the car runs or not. Like, everyone wants it to go. And I think that remembering that is important, and making sure that everyone around you is like, yeah, it's hard, but you're all in it together kind of thing.
I think you make a really good point there, because I still maintain that Formula Student cost me a classification grade in my career. Now, did that make a difference in my career? Arguable. But I know there was people in our team that were quite annoyed at that situation. And at the end, when you don't necessarily get what you want out of Formula Student as well, that feeling of euphoria of we did it, and then you've done that as well, that can be quite hard to overcome. So you've got to think about all these things and support each other as a team. And I think it's really important.
Yeah, I was always really fortunate at my team to always be surrounded by a really good group of people.
It bonds you as friends for life, and not just, and I find this now with alumni from old teams, but also other universities as well. You become a community of alumni that you think there would be the affinity back to your home universities, but actually you grow beyond that, which is why it's so easy to go in and become a judge afterwards, because reality is you're probably more harsh on your home team than you would be on other
more expectation.
There is more expectation.
Less, yeah, totally.
So I found it interesting over these past 20 years now of just seeing the amount of students that come back and friends that I literally made for life that I'll see maybe once or twice a year, and they are good friends, and we just reconnect at that event again. And it just is amazing how you have that shared experience and that shared struggle, and you know what everyone's going through. So, in closing, what I'd like to do is, I'd like you to just basically, in all honesty, if you had to describe Formula Student to somebody out there in 3 words, what would those 3 words be? Hopefully not expletive words, but if you wanted to, I'm happy with that. But if you could tell me 3 words for Formula Student, that'd be great. So who wants to start?
Well, I've written down 3 words. I wrote down demanding, valuable, because it has been valuable to me. I've written down bodgy.
That's a good one.
I said stressful, fun, and just exciting.
I haven't gone quite as comedic as you, Harry, but I've gone for challenging, rewarding, very rewarding, but you do get things right. And even when you don't sometimes. But most of all, it was very fun.
Okay. And would you do it again?
100%. Absolutely.
How is that?
Well, I definitely would do it again. I certainly do things maybe slightly differently, but now I would 100% do it again.
Excellent. Well, listen, thank you ever so much for your time here today. We really appreciate it. And I am so proud of you guys for making it up to Formula One. We'll see you back at the event, and I have no doubt that you establishing relationships here. I have no doubt you'll be back here again for your career. Thank you ever so much. Good luck with everything. Hope it goes well, and we'll see you at the event in July.
Thank you, John.
The one to keep an eye out for is that IndyCar have got a new commentator that we're all familiar with, because he's the voice of Formula One on F1 TV and on Channel 4. Alex Jax is commentating on the new IndyCar season for Fox, which I think is going to be really exciting. IndyCar being the premier single-seat race series over in the United States, and being European, we tend to dismiss it, but a colleague of mine introduced me to it last year, and it's actually a completely different kettle of fish, but nonetheless incredibly exciting. A different type of driving, a different type of engineering, but really fascinating to watch. And with Alex Jack's voice, I think it's going to tip it over the edge. I think it's going to be something I'm going to keep an eye on this year. I think also because I think they upload the full race coverage to YouTube, so you don't have to worry about paying for a subscription, which, yeah, always a nice thing.
I think the oval racing's underrated, and especially when you start getting into the technical side, and how you need to set up the car to be successful. You only look back at when Alonso was out trying to qualify for Indy, and he just couldn't get close to it, and they were literally trying to buy setups overnight to try and get him on the grid for bump day. So, I think it's an underrated event, the oval racing, especially in Indy.
I do take the mick out of oval racing in the commentary box for the sim racing, simply because it's a single corner, and often enough we have done a bit of a combination of either rovals, which is like road and oval circuits, and just done ovals, and I have often made a joke, but it is nonetheless a different type of racecraft that is equally interesting. Equally interesting is the Formula Student season is beginning to build now. We're getting towards Formula Student season. The teams are building their cars. I know Cardiff have got to work on theirs. Leicester have got to work on theirs. Yep. De Montfort, I'm really excited for De Montfort. They've reversed the decision in terms of their powertrain, and they've reverted back to an internal combustion engine. They're taking inspiration from their last one, which is a wonderful car from the first year I was in the commentary box. And De Montfort, always an exciting team to watch on track in terms of just their driving, really put it to the ragged edge of what each car is capable of. So I'm very much excited for them. And obviously in the UK teams are all guaranteed entry, but a lot of the UK teams have actually been getting into the quizzes, because in order to qualify for the European events, you've got to take part in quizzes. And I noticed something really strange, and I'm doing a PhD now, so I'm a little bit more removed from the inner circle of the Formula Student teams, but did FSG rerun their quiz?
Yeah, it was, I think, technical errors that are there, but when you think about the logistics of trying to get teams from around the world to, sit a quiz all at the same time, all through different servers, they had to rerun it a week later, and that was really difficult because in Europe it's all a unified payment days and as well, right, and everything. But I think that's been successfully done now. But it's really interesting sort of seeing the background and what they do out there, and the wait lists that they have for their events. There's really healthy wait lists on some of the competitions out there. 150 teams actually competing to go on to those sort of events.
It's big.
Yeah, we do it a bit differently in the UK though. We've actually got capacity for a lot more, over 100 cars at Silverstone. But we took the view very early on that we weren't just going to select the top teams. The event has to be geared up for every single element of the grid. So we want to have teams that are starting out, first year teams that are building. That's one of the main reasons we have the concept class as well, so that you can get in at a relatively cheap level and build your team around it. So we didn't go down the route of the quizzes, but we've got open capacity there as well. So because we're at Silverstone, there's a massive pit lane, we could take it. So there's still availability there for teams if they want to join and get involved. And I think we take a slightly different stance on it, which is against us to a certain degree, because when you start talking about the world rankings that a lot of the European teams love, they'll naturally be higher because the competition's higher at a restricted event that only selects the top teams from a knowledge perspective. But actually Formula Student is a learning curve as well. The knowledge is gained throughout the year. It's not just about hitting the ground at the quizzes at the beginning of the year as well. So it's how you grow. So we're really proud of that as an event, and it's something that we'll continue to try and promote.
I would say that the quizzes are almost the end product.
Yeah,
in some ways, because
the wrong way round.
You're now having to demonstrate your knowledge and your research beforehand. So, but it's the big thing about Formula Students is it is a big old journey. It begins in the last week of September. You're there. You're in for the year now. The work begins there. The design work's there. The revision is there. The cost analysis is there. Chasing for sponsors is all there. I think it's the biggest misconception going that this all just magically happens for 1 week in summer. I think people really do overlook the other 10 months.
Oh yeah, it's massive, and it's a year round. And it's an evergreen as well. And we spoke about knowledge transfer. Is as soon as you finish, you're into the next set and passing it on to the next generation of the teams. So
now that is the hardest thing as well, because if you've got master students going, how do you get that into your first, your second years who'll be taking over the year afterwards? Processes, the procedures, the written notes, all of those kind of things. A lot of people overlook because they're just trying to get to the finish line, and then they have to restart all that pain again the year afterwards. Those that you see at the top is because they've learned from those lessons. It's because they've got a way to pass on that knowledge, because it's very easy to say, oh, well, it's the same team as always at the top. But it's not the same people. Take, for example, the sim racing series this year. We've seen Glasgow dominate for the last couple of seasons. So everyone came and going, oh, here we go, it's going to be another Glasgow onslaught this year. Yeah. But it's been a brand new team personnel, and they've been struggling to get into the top 10.
And I think this is where we don't do ourselves any favours in the UK, where we set up our teams. You'll see that the setup in Europe, where the perceived good teams are is very different. They're going on a 2-year cycle and even longer, and the teams sit with that, and they take teams out onto work placements as well.
Yeah.
So that they are owning that vehicle for a lot longer and developing it. Also, we'll see where you are based geographically as well benefits you. For instance, if the Australian teams that come over to our event, it's their second event. They've had 6 months of development as well. So it's all about when do you deploy that car and how do you develop it, and when do you start your Formula Student year, because then that time bars your car for a year in the Formula Student world. But that's entirely up to you, and deployment of that is up to you. You could be developing a car for a couple of years and then run it in your first event. How do you do that? Do you need to think about this strategically as a team and rethink, much like what Williams have done? Right, back to basic, what James Vowles has done. Right, how do we break things? How do we get things back to where they need to be so that we can really evolve and move forward? And I think it's fascinating and absolutely transferable to Formula Student. If we are in a situation where we're not performing as we want to, how do we develop that and change it? How do we manage that situation? I think it's fascinating.
It is absolutely fascinating, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of the teams this year. I think it's going to be a close run thing between a number of teams, because you can see that they're getting closer and closer as a field towards the top. And I'd be interested to know, in much the same way that we've been asking tonight, who do you reckon is going to win the Formula One World Championship going into the season? Headed towards Formula Student season, out of the teams in the UK, who do you think is going to do the best?
I think Brooks I've been developing and knocking on the door for a long time, and I think I'm not going to say go lucky, but everybody has an element of luck, and I think when the stars align for them, they have a package that could be very, very fast. I think there's a good chance of that. I think Cardiff as a swan song with their IC before they move over to EV next year are out to prove a point. And I know Sam's very determined to do that, the team principal at Cardiff.
Staffordshire.
Yeah, Staffordshire is where I was going to come in with that.
I think actually we've got a really strong setup of teams at Formula Student now. When you think about it, and the pedigree of teams that are there, and what they're doing it with the budgets as well. It's not these rockstar budgets that you see elsewhere. These are teams that are really innovative with the way that they're deploying those. I'm actually quite excited.
From my heart of hearts, I want to see Southbank get through scrutineering and get a car out on track, because I've been following them for a fair few years now, and they keep getting closer and closer. Yeah. And it's got to come soon. And it's either going to be this year or next year for them, I reckon. I really would love to see them get it. And another team along the same lines is Exeter.
Yeah.
They got close last year, and then I think their exhaust decided to inject the muffler at the scrutineer's head in the sound tank. Well, yeah, exactly. So that went the way of the dodo for them, and they were close. And I've seen footage of them running their car on social media recently in engine testing, and actually just running it up and down on the Exeter campus. And I'm hopeful that we can get to see them out on track as well, because they're a team that have got the image and the marketing down to a T. And it's just a case of seeing the engineering come of age and come through and mature at the same time, because in that way they have everything going.
Yeah. There's a couple of other teams I'd like to add on to there, because I think for the last few seasons we haven't really seen them on the track for various reasons. But you look at the static events, they still do fantastic in design, in business, in cost. They're doing a lot of good talking, but I'd love to see them do the walking to match that talk. Southampton, Glasgow, Strathclyde, Hertfordshire. Yeah. They've gone through a big journey converting to EV, which has taken much longer than I think they anticipated it would. But the quality of their static events have not dipped in that point in this period. So they've still been able to get big points there. I would just love to see them actually get a car on track and fully functioning as well.
Hearts just got a new facility as well, haven't they?
They do have a brand new facility. It's very nice.
You've been involved in Formula Student now, presenting in Vision for the past couple of years, and you're beginning to get your head round who the teams are and what their stories are. Who would you like to see do well going into this season?
I believe it was Oxford Brooks. That
There's
the first year that I did it, I don't think they made it through endurance, and they were this close, and then they didn't quite win it this year. Last year either. And I want to see them get a win. You know, I think they've just been this close for so long that I just want to see them get a win.
I think the platform that they've been developing for a couple of years, since COVID now, when it actually goes, it's going to go. When the stars align and everything really works, it's going to fly.
In which case, I would say to all of everything that's been said here, from what I can gather, unless a very significant European team turns up, or a team from Australia, again, turns up to really challenge, provided that there are no hiccups, as there have been gremlins and what have you for Oxford Brooks this year going into the series, it's theirs to lose then.
I think that maybe is a bit harsh.
Okay.
I think theirs to lose. There's so many variables in Formula Student, and that's wonderful because of it. Is you could have different set of judges, you could have problems at scrutineering, the littlest things, the littlest gremlins. I think you've got to earn it, and every team's got to earn it. I think they have put themselves in a very good position. I wouldn't say it's theirs to lose, but I think they have got the right ingredients. They just got to bake the cake in the right way.
Talking of cake, I don't know about you guys, but I'm hungry. This has been really great, and it's been a real pleasure to be at Williams throughout the day. So thank you to Williams Esports. They've been wonderful. You've been Sheryl.
You've been Giles.
And this has been the Formula Student Online Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. Tune back in next time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon.